I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who'd go through her husband's phone. But that night, something inside me broke, some quiet instinct screaming that the man I'd been married to for 8 years was hiding something. And I was right. The message was short, stupidly simple. Can't wait to see you again. Same place. No name, no emojis, nothing romantic. Just secretive. Cold. My hands shook as I scrolled, and I remember thinking how surreal it was to be in our shared bed, wrapped in the same blanket we bought together, while reading proof that my life wasn't what I thought it was. But to understand how I got there, you need to know how subtle it all started. A few months earlier, Daniel had changed. Not in a way you'd notice right away, just little things. He started showering as soon as he came home from work. His phone, which used to lie face up on the counter, was suddenly always face down. He became protective of it, jumping if I even reached for it to check the time. And there was the cologne. God, the cologne. He'd never worn any in his life, said it made him sneeze. But now he smelled like cedar and citrus every evening, and when I asked why, he said it was a gift from a client. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But every small lie felt like another brick in a wall between us. One night, I tried to surprise him at work with dinner. His assistant, a sweet young woman named Chloe, looked uncomfortable when she saw me. She stammered something about Daniel leaving early. When I called him, he said he was still in a late meeting. I remember driving home in silence, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white. That's when the paranoia began. I started noticing patterns. The late meetings were always on Thursdays. The sudden weekend work trips. The smell of wine on his breath when he claimed to have been just with the guys. I told myself I was overthinking, that every marriage goes through rough patches. But one night, after he fell asleep, I couldn't stop myself. I took his phone. I knew the passcode, our wedding date. And that's when I saw it, the text, followed by weeks of deleted conversations. It felt like the floor fell out beneath me. But I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I decided to find out who she was. The next morning, I acted normal. I made his favorite breakfast, kissed him goodbye, even smiled when he said he had another late night. But when he left, I followed him. I felt ridiculous, like some jealous, broken woman in a bad movie. My hands were sweating, heart racing, as I tailed his car across town. He stopped at a small hotel, one of those quiet boutique places people go when they don't want to be seen. He parked. And then she appeared. Chloe, his assistant. My stomach turned to ice. She was laughing, tossing her hair, and when he leaned in to kiss her, I thought I might actually vomit. I didn't cry. I just sat there, numb, watching the man I thought I knew touch another woman like I didn't even exist. I drove home, still in a daze. Every memory of our marriage played in my mind. Our wedding, the house we built, the promises we made, and they all felt like lies. But I wasn't done. No, not yet. I wanted him to feel what I felt, to look me in the eyes and realize I knew everything. So I waited. When he came home that night, smiling, smelling like her perfume, I was calm. Too calm. How was work? I asked. He said, busy. You know how it is. I smiled. Yeah, I said. I do. Especially the kind of work that happens at the Greenstone Hotel. His face drained of color. He stuttered, tried to lie, but I interrupted. Don't bother, Daniel. I saw you. There was silence. Then excuses. Tears. Promises. The usual script. He said it just happened, that it meant nothing, that he loved me. But I wasn't even listening. I just stared at him, this stranger wearing my husband's face. And then, right when I thought it couldn't get worse, my phone buzzed. A message. From Chloe. You should know the truth before he twists it, she wrote. I opened it. And that's when I found out the real reason Daniel had been so distant. The affair wasn't new. It had been going on for almost 2 years. And Chloe wasn't the only one. There were others. She sent screenshots, hotel bookings, transfers, messages to multiple women. My hands went cold. I looked at him and I laughed. Actually laughed. because it was so absurd, so humiliating. I told him to leave, and he did, throwing a few things into a bag. The house was quiet after that. Too quiet. But the story wasn't over. A week later, I got another message from an unknown number. "He's been lying to both of us," it said. "Meet me. I'll show you." I almost ignored it, but something told me to go. I met her at a coffee shop. She was older, maybe mid-30s, nervous but kind. She said her name was Julia, and then she showed me something that made my blood run cold, a paternity test. Daniel had a son, with her, a boy he'd been supporting in secret for 4 years. She said he told her he was divorced, that I was crazy and manipulative, that I was the reason he couldn't be with her openly. I sat there, numb, listening to this woman describe my husband's double life, realizing how deep his lies went. Every fight, every business trip, every apology, it was all theater. But here's the thing that no one tells you about heartbreak. It doesn't kill you right away. It lingers. It festers. It reshapes who you are. I thought I was broken. But in that moment, I realized I wasn't. I was finally free. And I was done playing the victim. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. So, I did something Daniel would never expect. I sent him the paternity test, the screenshots, everything. And then I filed for divorce.
No yelling.
No drama. Just quiet, final, brutal truth. But before I blocked his number, he sent me one last message. "You'll regret this. You don't know everything." And that's when I started wondering, what did he mean? At first, I thought it was just another empty threat from a desperate man who'd lost control. But there was something about the tone of that message that crawled under my skin and stayed there. "You don't know everything." It looped in my head for days, even as I tried to move on. I started therapy, went back to work, and filled my evenings with distractions: yoga, long walks, Netflix marathons where no one cheated, no one lied, and everyone got what they deserved. But still, I couldn't stop thinking about what he'd meant. You don't know everything. What else could there be? I already knew about the affairs, the lies, the secret child. What more could possibly be hiding behind that? Then strange things started happening. Small, but unsettling. My mail began showing up opened. My car alarm went off in the middle of the night, twice. One morning, I came downstairs to find the back door unlocked, though I was sure I'd locked it. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, that I was just paranoid, traumatized, still adjusting to being alone in the house. But deep down, I knew better. Daniel had always been manipulative in subtle, quiet ways. When we first started dating, he made me feel like I was the only person in the world who really understood him. But over time, that love turned into control. He'd make jokes about how forgetful I was, how emotional, how I imagined things. By the end, I didn't even trust my own memory. And now, after everything, it felt like he was still in my head, even when he wasn't there. About 2 weeks after the divorce papers were served, I got a call from an unknown number. I ignored it at first, but it rang again. Same number. I picked up. Silence. Then a voice I hadn't heard in weeks, his. "You need to stop digging," he said quietly. "Just let it go, for your own good." And then he hung up. My heart was racing. I tried calling back, but the number was disconnected. That night, I barely slept. The house creaked with every gust of wind, and every shadow looked like something sinister. I started wondering if maybe he was following me. Maybe he still had a key. Maybe he'd never really left. The next morning, I went to the police. They were polite but dismissive. "Ma'am, do you have any evidence of threats or harassment?" I told them about the calls, the unlocked doors, the strange feeling of being watched. They nodded sympathetically, but didn't write anything down. "Probably just stress," one of them said. "You've been through a lot." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Instead, I decided to do something Daniel would never expect. I started investigating him. I reached out to Chloe first. She didn't respond at first, but after I sent a message saying I wasn't angry, just looking for answers, she agreed to meet. When I saw her, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked wrecked, thinner, paler, eyes sunken with exhaustion. "He ruined my life too," she said before I could even sit down. She told me that after I confronted him, he turned on her, said she'd betrayed him, that he'd make sure she never worked again. He'd cut her off completely, but not before threatening to expose her for something. When I asked what that meant, she hesitated, then slid a flash drive across the table. "This," she said quietly, "is why you need to be careful." The drive contained a folder of files, documents, photos, spreadsheets, all related to Daniel's business. Or rather, his side business. It turned out my loving husband had been laundering money through his company for years, using fake client invoices and offshore accounts. Chloe had accidentally found out when she was managing payroll and noticed discrepancies. "That's how their affair started," she said. He'd manipulated her, made her feel like his confidant, his partner in crime. But when she tried to back out, he threatened her. Said if she talked, she'd go down with him. I sat there in stunned silence, realizing just how deep his deceit ran. This wasn't just about infidelity. This was criminal. He'd risked everything, our home, our future, even his own child, for money and power. Suddenly, his message made sense. "You don't know everything." He wasn't talking about the affairs.
He was talking about this.
I should have gone to the police right away, but part of me hesitated. What if he found out I had the files? What if he came after me?
For a week, I did nothing.
I kept the flash drive hidden in a jewelry box, barely sleeping, jumping at every noise. Then one night, I came home from work to find my front door slightly ajar. My stomach dropped. Inside, the house was eerily quiet. I called out his name, stupid, instinctive, but no answer. When I stepped into the living room, I froze. Every drawer was open, papers scattered everywhere. He'd been there, and the jewelry box, where I'd hidden the flash drive, was gone. My hand shook as I called the police again, and this time, they took it seriously. They dusted for prints, asked questions, took photos. But of course, they didn't find anything. No forced entry.
No witnesses.
Just chaos and fear. That night, I stayed in a hotel. And while I was lying there in that unfamiliar bed, staring at the ceiling, I realized something that made my blood run cold. I wasn't safe anymore. Daniel knew that I knew too much. The next day, I got an email. No subject line, no sender name. Just one line of text. "Meet me where it all began." Attached was a photo, our wedding day. The beach, the white gazebo, the place where he'd promised to love me forever. Against all reason, I went. Maybe it was closure I wanted, or maybe I just needed to look him in the eye one last time.
The beach was empty when I arrived.
Windy, cold, the waves crashing like distant thunder. I waited. And then I saw him. He looked different. Disheveled. Haunted. Like a man on the edge. "You shouldn't have come," he said quietly. "Then why did you call me here?" I asked. "Because you need to understand, it wasn't supposed to happen like this. Any of it." He told me he'd gotten involved with people, dangerous people. That the money laundering had started small, just a way to cover debts, but then it spiraled. He said he couldn't stop. That if the truth came out, they'd both come for him, and for anyone connected to him. "You were never supposed to get dragged into it," he said. "But now it's too late." I stared at him, tears burning my eyes. Too late for what? Before he could answer, headlights cut through the fog behind us. A car. Then another. Daniel's face went white. "You need to go. Now," he said, pushing me toward my car. "Who are they?" I demanded. But he didn't answer. Just shouted, "Run." I drove away, shaking, heart pounding. In my rearview mirror, I saw him running toward the water as two men stepped out of the cars. That was the last time I ever saw him. The police found his car the next morning, but not him. His body was never recovered. The investigation into his company exposed everything, the fraud, the stolen accounts, even the network of people he'd been working with. But Daniel himself? He just vanished.
No trace.
Sometimes, late at night, I think about that last look in his eyes, the fear, the regret, the strange kind of love that still lingered there, even after everything. And sometimes when my phone buzzes with an unknown number, I wonder, what if he's still out there? Watching. waiting, maybe trying to make things right. Or maybe just making sure I never tell anyone what I really know. Because here's the truth, that flash drive Chloe gave me, it wasn't the only one. There was a backup.
Hidden.
And it contains something no one else has seen yet. Something that could destroy everything he ever built, and everyone who helped him. But the question is, should I open it? What would you do if you were me? For days after Daniel's disappearance, my life became a blur of police interviews, sleepless nights, and the echo of unanswered questions. They kept asking the same things. When was the last time I saw him? What exactly did he say? Did I know who he was involved with? I gave them the same story over and over, but I left out one crucial detail, the second flash drive. It was hidden in the most unremarkable place imaginable, inside an old photo frame, behind a picture of us on our honeymoon. I'd copied the data the night before I confronted him, almost without thinking, like some instinct for self-preservation had kicked in. And now it was the only thing I had left of him, the only thing that might explain what really happened. But I wasn't sure I wanted the answers. The first drive had shown me enough: shell companies, offshore accounts, transfers labeled only with initials. This second one might reveal more than I could handle. Still, every night I found myself staring at that frame, my mind racing. What if it proved he hadn't just been laundering money, but something darker? What if it named names, people powerful enough to make someone disappear without a trace? It was almost a week later when I finally opened it. I sat at the kitchen table, the house silent except for the hum of the refrigerator, and plugged the drive into my laptop. At first, there was nothing, just empty folders labeled invoices, clients, reports. Then I saw one buried deep in a subfolder. Archive_personal. My hand hesitated over the mouse. I clicked. Inside were dozens of audio files. Each one dated, each one titled with a woman's name. My stomach turned as I opened the first one. It was a recording, Daniel's voice calm, familiar, manipulative. "You know I can't leave her yet. She's not stable. But soon. I promise." Then a woman's voice, crying softly.
Chloe.
Another file, another woman, another promise, and another. It was like listening to him craft the same illusion again and again, the lies that kept all of us trapped in his orbit. But the last file was different. It was labeled with my name. I pressed play. Silence. Then his voice. "If you're hearing this, something's gone wrong." My hands went cold. He continued. "They're watching everything. Don't trust anyone. Especially not the police. Especially not Chloe." I froze. "I know what you found. I know about the files."
But it's not just me.
It never was. They used me, made me do things I didn't understand. I tried to protect you. God, I tried. But if you open this before it's safe, they'll come for you too. The recording ended abruptly, replaced by static. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. Was this another manipulation, another game? Or was he actually warning me? I replayed it over and over, analyzing every inflection, every pause, every breath. He sounded terrified, a tone I'd never heard from him before. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every shadow looked alive. Every creak felt like footsteps. At 2:47 a.m., there was a knock at my door. Soft, hesitant. I froze. Another knock. Louder this time. I crept to the window, pulling the curtain back just an inch. A woman stood there in the rain.
Chloe.
My first instinct was to ignore her, to hide until she left. But something in her posture, the desperation in the way she kept glancing over her shoulder, made me open the door. "We need to talk," she whispered. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. "They know about the files." My throat tightened.
Who?
"The people Daniel worked for. They think you have something that could expose them." She stepped inside, dripping water onto the floor. "They already came for me. That's why I'm here." She rolled up her sleeve, revealing bruises on her arm, dark, fresh. I barely got away. I felt dizzy. "Chloe, what are you talking about? Who are they?" She hesitated. "You need to see something." She handed me a crumpled piece of paper, a printed email thread. It was between Daniel and someone named RK. The messages were short, cryptic. Transfer confirmed. Keep her quiet.
No witnesses.
The last message was dated the night before he disappeared. She knows. Handle it. She, me. My knees nearly buckled. I told you, Chloe said quietly. They were never going to let you walk away. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A message. You should have listened. No name, no context. Just those 4 words. My skin crawled. I turned to Chloe. We have to go. We grabbed what we could, my keys, my laptop, the flash drive, and bolted. As I drove, my headlights cut through the fog like blades, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly they ached. Where are we going? She asked. Somewhere they can't find us, I said, though I had no idea where that was. We ended up in a roadside motel off the highway, the kind of place that felt invisible. I pulled the curtain shut, locked the door, and finally, for the first time in hours, exhaled. Chloe sat on the edge of the bed, trembling. They killed him, she said suddenly. What? Daniel. He tried to make a deal. Said he'd turn everything over if they let us go. But they didn't trust him. I shook my head. You don't know that.
Ido.
Her voice cracked. I was there. My blood ran cold. She explained that Daniel had reached out to her after the breakup, said he wanted to make things right. He told her about the people he'd been working with, how deep he was in, and that he was going to meet someone that night at the beach to negotiate his freedom. She went with him, hiding nearby in her car. But when those 2 men arrived, things went wrong fast. She heard shouting, saw Daniel run. Then gunshots. She drove away before they saw her. I didn't know what to do, she whispered. I thought they'd come after me next. I sat there in silence, trying to process it all. The man I'd once trusted with my life was dead, murdered by people I didn't even know existed. And somehow, I was still tangled in his mess. We have to take this to someone, I said finally. The FBI, the press, someone who will actually listen. But when I reached for the flash drive, it was gone. Panic surged through me. I tore through my bag, the car, the room, nothing. Chloe froze, her expression unreadable. You lost it. No, I stopped. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at the nightstand. My phone. The screen lit up. Another message. We have what we need. Thank you, Chloe. She turned to me, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. They said they'd kill me if I didn't give it to them. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. The betrayal hit like a knife. You set me up? I didn't have a choice, she cried. They said they'd find me, my family, but I wasn't listening anymore. I grabbed my keys and ran, out into the rain, my heart slamming in my chest. Behind me, I heard her shouting my name, but I didn't look back. I just drove. I don't remember how long. Maybe hours. Maybe days. Time lost meaning. I ended up in a different city under a different name. Cut my hair. Sold the house. Started over.
Or tried to.
But the story doesn't end there. 2 months later, I got a package. No return address. Inside, a single USB drive. And a note, written in Daniel's handwriting. You think it's over? It never ends. I still haven't opened it. Sometimes I stare at it, wondering what's inside. Proof of everything? A final confession? Or just another trap waiting to pull me back in? The truth is, I'll probably never know. Because every time I try to plug it in, I remember his voice on that recording, the fear, the warning, the quiet desperation. Don't trust anyone. And I wonder, if I open it, will I finally get answers, or will it destroy what little peace I've managed to find? So tell me, what would you do if you were me? Would you open the drive, or let the past stay buried forever? A month passed before I made my decision. I tried everything to convince myself to forget, to bury the past, to pretend Daniel's world had nothing left to take from me. But it wasn't true. The silence was worse than the fear. The not knowing haunted me. So one night, when the rain was beating against my window like the world itself was warning me to stop, I plugged the drive in. My heart was a hammer in my chest. The screen blinked once, twice, then a single folder appeared. It was called Insurance. Inside were two files, one video, one document. My fingers trembled as I opened the video first. The image was grainy, but I recognized the room immediately. It was our old living room. Daniel was sitting on the couch, looking straight into the camera. He looked thinner, worn down, like the man I'd married had been replaced by a ghost. "If you're seeing this," he said, "I didn't make it out." He ran a hand through his hair, breathing hard. "You deserve the truth, even if it kills me. The people I worked with, they're not businessmen. They're politicians, law enforcement, judges. Every level of the system is rotting. And I was their tool." He leaned forward. "I thought I could control it. I thought I could outsmart them. But I was wrong. They own everything, including the police you went to. That's why I told you not to trust anyone." My breath caught. "There's a second part," he said quietly. "Something you need to see." He reached off camera, and when he came back, he was holding a small photo of me. "You were never supposed to be part of this. They were watching us even back then. The day we met, it wasn't an accident." I felt the room tilt. "You think we met by chance?"
No.
"They wanted leverage on me. You were meant to be my weakness. But you became the only reason I ever wanted out." My vision blurred with tears. He gave a small, broken smile. "I fell in love with the trap they set for me. And that's how I knew I was already dead." The video cut out. I sat there for what felt like hours, numb, the rain pounding harder outside. Eventually, I opened the second file. It was a list, names, dates, payments, bank accounts. But at the bottom was something else. My name, my birth date, a single note beside it. Asset dormant. Activated if compromised. I didn't understand at first. Then it hit me. I wasn't just a coincidence. I was part of their system too, tied to their network, through Daniel. Maybe without even knowing it. The accounts, the marriage, the transfers, I was connected. Legally, financially, permanently.
A pawn on their board.
That's when I heard it. A knock at the door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. My blood turned to ice. I unplugged the drive, shoved it into my pocket, and crept toward the window. A black car was parked across the street. Headlights off. Someone stood under the street lamp, watching, waiting. The knocks came again. I didn't answer. I slipped out the back door, into the rain, heart racing. I didn't stop running until the lights of the city disappeared behind me. I never went back to that apartment. Never used my real name again. Every few months I move. A new job, a new town, a new face in the mirror. But wherever I go, I see the same car eventually, always parked just far enough away to make me doubt if it's real. And sometimes, when the world is too quiet, I still hear Daniel's voice in my head. "You were never supposed to be part of this." Maybe that's true.
But I am now.
The flash drive is still with me. I keep it hidden, the only link to the truth of what really happened, to who's really pulling the strings. I don't know if I'll ever open it again. I don't even know if I'm ready to know everything. But I do know one thing. They underestimated me. I might have been his weakness once. But now I'm the one who knows their secrets. And maybe, just maybe, that makes me dangerous too. So tell me, if you were in my place, would you keep running? Or would you finally fight back?